Oh, good evening, everyone. Been a few minutes since we've done this, so hopefully we don't have any complications. No guarantees on that, of course. We're going to make tonight, at least one of the things, is just a small rim platter. I was at a symposium a couple weeks ago and purchased some more different guild creams. So this will have some color added to the rim. Well, actually, it'll be black, but we'll end up with some color. So we start out between centers, like most everything else. I just cut the corners off of this one. I didn't even too much stuff sitting on my bandsaw to screw around moving it, so kind of being lazy. So we'll just take the corners off with the lathe. How you doing, buddy? Well, it's been almost probably about 2 months for me. Having some issues with my lathe. That was the major part of the problem. But hopefully we got that situation squared away. Well, let's get this to round. It feels like there's a little spot maybe left behind. Oh, that's what I was feeling. That's the bottom. Okay. So this will be the top. So this is ash. So it probably will be very dusty, or sort of dusty. But I need the big open grain so that I can fill the grain once we get to that point. The rest doesn't want to stay tight. So what I'm gonna do is put a tenon on this side so that I can grab it from there and have total access to the base. Wow, I have nothing in my road. A little wider should work. Sharp corner. That should do the trick. I like to have total access everywhere, anywhere I can. In this case, most cases, it makes it easier. It's a little bit of an extra step. Could use a woodworm screw in there, but they don't always make out real well. This is actually some ash lumber, 8/4 lumber. So it's not super duper flat. So the woodworm screw, in my opinion, don't always work on things that aren't real flat like that. So I would just rather take the extra couple minutes and do it this way. Not to mention this thing's going to be pretty shallow, so if I put a hole for the woodworm, then you could have other issues to go with it. So now we got her in the chuck. We're ready to do everything else to it. Flatten off the bottom. And then we will go from there. Like I say, it's just small. It's only about 8 inches in diameter. So it's certainly not a big platter to go by any means. We should be able to get the speed up fairly high right now. This is going to be one of those things where we're going to, I could switch to there. Yeah, that might make more sense. So all I've done is flatten it off. So now we have two parallel sides, or a parallel side, so to speak. And we'll use a recess rather than a tenon. That way I won't have to go back after it a second time. I need to set my calipers to the jaws. To the outside diameter of the jaws. I have stuff set for the inside, but I don't do a lot with recesses, so this is just another one of them scenarios of do as you go, sort of. So the jaw is completely closed at this point. And we'll mark where we're going to go. Which will be the inside of the recess. And let's just make the recess for now. We'll make it about 1/8 of an inch deep, something like that. Once again, it's dovetailed because that's what the jaws are. They're dovetailed. So reduce the diameter there just a little bit. And we'll sort of give it a little button in there. It's supposed to be rounded. Make it a little bit decorative. Can't say that I've really done any of these that are in this fashion though, because it's so small. Normally I put an OG on there, but if I divide that up by thirds, I think it's going to be pretty small. So looking at somewhere there. Not sure about that. Decisions. I don't think I'm going to like that. But I have two of these blanks cut, so if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But so I'll go across the corner on about a 45, something like that. And we'll make this a curve. This is actually considerably thicker than it needs to be too. In quite some time. I'm just sort of using the natural curve of the tool to create that curve, and then I'll come back and I'll make a finishing cut. And I'm just basically getting rid of some material at this point. I still needed some sort of flat area for it to sit on as well, which that's still flat in there. But it could be a little bit concaved in there too. It always pays to be directly in line with it to see the curve. Oh, it looks a little better. thing. So I could go in a little bit farther. I don't really need it to be that necessarily that big of a foot. But I do need to make sure that it's going to sit, and it's not. We played around enough. Now I'll just reduce the inside part in there a little bit. Make it a little bit concave, just so that it sits more out in, in that area. Yeah, it's ash getting dusted. So now it's flat. Could be a little shade more. There. It's more like it now. It'll sit just on that little outside lip out there. As long as we did everything right and we don't have anything torn up, which we don't. It does have some bug holes in it though. Go out here and round this corner a little bit more. And that should be good. This is kind of going to be one of these projects where we're going to have to actually sand and finish the back of this, because when I go putting dye on the other side, if I don't have this finished on the back, it's going to bleed through, and we don't want that. The other thing I learned at the symposium was to try and make these stinking flowers in the middle. So maybe we'll need to be right on center. Okay, let's try it. Nothing else, I have to recut that little bit in there. And it worked. So it gives you a little flower in there. It's just a kind of a little detail kind of a thing. I know you probably really can't see the little flower, but trust me, it's there. We're going to turn the dust collector on because we are going to up and sand this on the outside. It's going to break that razor blade sharp edge on that. That'll be good for that. Yeah. It's been 2 months. Who knows what we got other than teaching classes. I haven't done any amount of turning myself. Like I say, the lathe was out of commission. Ended up being a very simple part, but getting to the simple part was the challenge. Let's do it in reverse. It'll make it dust collection better. Looks good. Now we just breeze through the grit. And sharpen that edge up considerably. So we'll just knock it back down a little bit. Easier with a little piece of sheet paper than them. That's pretty much the bottom complete. Like I say, we'll finish off the bottom. Otherwise, I will inevitably get something on it, whether it be color or something. So we will put a finish on it. Typical finish, my super glue finish. I use a paper towel that'll wipe. Ash is inherently, dust goes down into the grain, into the pores. It'll turn the paper towel dark. Won't really hurt anything. It wouldn't hurt anything in there, but it just makes the finishing process a little bit easier because that would end up with little bumps on there. It takes more buffing to get those little bumps off, especially down in this groove. That should be good. We use a piece of felt in there, roll it up into our paper towel. Acts as our little reservoir. Keeps the mess and contained a little bit. Just a little simple little pad that I make up. Products 3408. Get it on there plenty heavy. Got it started in there. Get that done quite well. Nice liberal coat. Ash kind of has a pretty grain all to itself, some ways. Get a nice coat all the way around. We have 40 seconds to get this done, so it's not no big hurry. Rub it in good, clean off the tip of the bottle. Makes life a little easier. And then all we got to do is wipe off the excess. Don't get much easier and simpler as far as I'm concerned. We'll give it a little shot of activator because we're going to keep on moving. So I'll cross once, twice, 3, 4. A little more than what I probably really need. Now we're ready to flip this around. Switch chucks. Get rid of this glow. And then we just keep it on for a second. Um, what am I looking for? Wax. Having a brain fade. A little bit of microcrystalline. No, that's not that screwdriver. Put chuck one. I'm just going to use my finger. A little bit of wax. I'm going to put a little wax on that face. A little wax on the edge of the jaws. Wax and super glue are not friends. So that's going to guarantee me that it's not going to stick fast. And we're ready to put this on there. Wow. And that's what I was afraid of. Changing plans. I knew when I scribed that line that I was planning on taking a little more off of it. It looks like I took a little less off of it. So we'll just go down a size. Not quite what I wanted it to do because this will probably leave some marks in there. There's the little flower in the middle. Kind of would look neat. Yeah, and I might be able to as well. Might be able to yeah, it's going to leave marks. That's way less than a circle in there now. It's got a solid grip, but it's going to be in 4 places rather than if it was cut just a little bit bigger than I could. You know what? I'm being dumb now. It didn't leave any marks, but it will when I turn. We'll just put it back on there. The right key. And I'll just recut that a little bit so that it fits. But I mean, it's super close to being to where it'll fit. So it's just a little minuscule amount. I guess I could check it. That would be the smart thing to do. Would have been the smarter thing to do the first time around. That just means I have to go back and finish that little spot later. Inside. Yeah. The tiny little minuscule amount that I took off there made it actually like perfect. Should have checked that before I did all the other work. Could have made life a little easier. Life can't all be easy. Gotta make sure I get that little flick in on the end so that I have a good grip. And that should be almost a perfect circle. Yeah. A little less than 1/8 of an inch opening in there, in between the jaws. That should give me a nice circle, nice even playing sort of playing field in there. We'll leave this there. We'll do the rim. We'll color it and everything else because this will get a. You'll be using some shellac and everything else out here on the rim, and then the rest of it will get done with the super glue eventually. So we change something, we slow down, pick up the speed. It has a little bit of a vibration to it there, but not too bad. Like I said, we got way too much material. That's going to be first order of business. That's probably still too much. It's probably going to be an odd looking piece because I'm more interested in playing with the colors. than anything else. And it's still pretty thick. Ideally out here I want to get down to about 1/4 of an inch out there. We're also going to make this a little bit curved. So get rid of that. Just sort of get a little bit of a general shape. That's not quite where I want it to be. Okay, it's more where we want it. Do you believe? I don't really have any torn grain, but we certainly can have a smoother surface than what we've had. A little bit of shear scraping. Looks like that's stood up some grain somewhere. It's just a little ridge there. Yes. Okay. Wife's trying to keep me safe. She said the marble rolled down the steps. It's sitting at the bottom of the steps. I'm going to step on it and follow my keister. So there's our rim. Now this is one of these kind of projects that you keep doing sort of a lot of the same thing as we would go. So we'll go back and sand that again. And then we'll put some color and some shellac on it. Color is going to be very simple. It's going to be black because these are, I forget what they call them. It looks like I need to get the hard pad for this so that I get down in that corner a little better. Not that that would matter a whole lot because somewhere out in here I'll cut and take the center out, but One of these things to try and do it right the first time. Still leaving a line down there. I think I'm just going to leave that alone. That'll be just where we're going to create the bold part. Back to reverse so I don't eat all the dust. Make sure our rim is nice and round, nice and smooth. Once again, we'll clean out the grain. Definitely don't have it sanded in that corner very well. Like I said, I'm not really concerned about it. You get to see what it looks like when you don't properly sand something, that it won't do very well. But this is about how big the rim should be, I think. What it's going to do, put it that way. Should put two gloves on, because if we're playing with dye, I'll have black fingers otherwise, I'm sure. This is an alcohol-based dye. So I don't want to use that one. I have a couple different ones. I need the shellac. I'm going to put shellac on it anyhow, so I'll go with the chestnut spirit stains, which already has a little bit of shellac in it. Nice even coat up around the rim. Try and make the rim black and even all the way around, which is really the challenge of the day. It's not perfect. Most people can't. You won't see it, but you'll know that it's there. This is the part where you really want to have the back of it finished, because otherwise, especially with this open grain wood like this, I'll guarantee you there would be some little black dots show up on the back without a finish on there, which would not look very nice. We'll slow our speed way down, give it a little spin, let it dry, start to dry anyhow. It's alcohol based, so it takes very little time for it to dry. The only real question is, do we have it black enough? Hopefully we do. And we'll sort of burnish it. It'll make it dry quicker yet. Develops a little heat. So I thought we're going to have some light spots. And it's another way of solving that problem. I had to put a coat of shellac on to start with. So I'm going to find it right. There's the plug. I'll just do it with the airbrush. Hopefully we can get the lid off of the airbrush. There. This is the problem with taking so much time off from doing any of this that kind of no shame for this little airbrush. It's not an expensive airbrush by any means. And its life is generally doing this kind of stuff. This is shellac, de-waxed shellac. It's actually the seal coat shellac. It has black dye in it. So this will do two things for us. It'll turn it totally black, as well as seal it. Hopefully. A little pinhole is clogged a bit. Does appear that way. These siphon feed guns have a teeny tiny little hole in the top where they're sucking air through it is what it's doing. Well, inevitably they always get clogged up. Nothing a little pick won't take care of. Yeah, that should do it. Hopefully. It's going the wrong way. Now, get my towel so we don't have shellac all over the bed. Yeah, turn the dust collector back on so I'm not sucking a ton of shellac fumes. Nice and slow. That's all there is to it. Now the only problem is it needs to dry, which will take it 15 minutes or so. Make sure we have one nice, it gives you a really nice, I could have probably just started. A lot of times I just start with that rather than even messing with the dye. I find it almost to be easier than messing with the dyes or something like that. We're going to take that off. I'll just leave it in the chuck. Just look it over and make sure I got a nice even. It's like a very nice even black coat. I have a cedar bowl that I need to finish. So I'll do that. All I got to do is the inside of the bowl, so it only take me 15, 20 minutes to do that. So that's how we'll go wasting our 15 or spending our 15 or 20 minutes of time. Although I should have left my gloves on and cleaned that. Cleaned the airbrush while I was at it. We can go back to there. Did we freeze? We didn't freeze up there. We freeze over there. All right, why do we do that? Oh, that's interesting. Do the old unplug and replug on the camera. Interesting. Huh. I like them apples. That should be showing that. Let's go strictly to there then. That's weird. Like I say, it's been 2 months since I've done any of this, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. My apologies on that one. I think my overhead camera froze for some reason. Doesn't seem to want to cooperate and unfreeze. Just imagine, can't get much simpler to clean something than to put some denatured alcohol in there. I do have a little homemade container to contain the mess. And we'll just run some alcohol through it. And that'll clean, that's all it takes to clean it. It's always best if you don't leave the alcohol sitting in there like I did from earlier. So that'll be good once that dries. And in that plastic container there that I sprayed all that alcohol in, I just leave it sit there and it evaporates. It evaporates pretty quickly actually. Mm. And that's probably the chocolate I need. Yep. So we'll carefully take that off, not getting sticky fingers. This is a piece of red cedar. It is semi-dry. Take a couple seconds here and peel most of this bark. This bark is not staying on to start with. It's just a very big distraction because it will fly. And it doesn't look, the cedar bark doesn't look very pretty on something anyhow. See all these little fuzzies flying around. So we'll just go and hollow that out. Whoa, let's see whether it still has any edge left on the bowl gouge. Probably end up going over and sharpening that before too long. Check our height. We can go down just a shade. The cedar bark is very, very stringy. Now that almost looks like a little crack going up through there. I didn't see that earlier. That's disappointing. Little hairline crack. At least that's what it appears to be. Super glue finish will fill that up, but I keep an eye on that a little bit as we go to make sure that it's not going to create more. I'm gonna turn the camera off once and see if it does its own reset. I think it's something actually in OBS that's not cooperating. Let me try that once. Not that. Now it's back to there. So my hand out of the road. That'll look. That should look better once it catches up. Must not have liked the 2-month break. As always, we did something different. It always helps going forward rather than reverse. Start off slow, bring the speed up to whatever you're comfortable with. In this case, this thing is, even though it's a natural edge, I've taken the time to, this is going to be really dusty, so going to add a little extra noise to it. This thing has a knot out there too. Rather than sharpen, just go over to the 40-degree gouge. Give me a little cleaner cut up here at this top side anyhow. We're at about a half-inch, a little thick for my liking. Just wanted to make sure I was cutting what I was thinking it was cutting. I'll find a bevel in here where it's solid, come back out. Stop and take a look. Crack does come the whole way through. I can feel it on the inside. It goes down into about there by the looks of it, but can't any more than fly apart. That'll be the first one. Behind that cut, pick it up. Nice and slow and steady. Down into there. And if I did everything right, that shouldn't leave me a ridge where the two meet, and it didn't. It's always a plus. Like I say, the bark will not stay on. That's not a pretty bark to start with. That'll actually take a wire brush and clean it off. We have a tiny little chip in there though. Also thickened up a little bit. So we'll see the 2-month break whether we have the touch. We'll go back. It'll be a little bit noisy though, because it's thin enough. Right there's our crack. Get our tool rest in a little bit further if we can. Not that it really overly helps me a lot, but just have to keep in mind our left hand has to stay on my tool rest at all times. And right there is where the 40-degree gouge is not going to cooperate. You could go to a little, the smaller of the bottom bowl gouges. ridge. You gotta get that ridge out of there. Just a straight up and down grind. Try and show you over here. Rather than the wings are swept back like that one. This one's, it's still pretty much 60 degrees. It's just straight up and down. And I'm cutting, you can see where the pink is at in there. I'm cutting more on the left side of it than I am the right side. So it just, when it goes across the bottom like that, it just does a nicer, neater job. I wouldn't have to use it. I'm kind of being lazy. I'm not going over and sharpening that other one. I could get away with the same gouge the whole way through if I wanted to. I should actually be using the bigger one of them. There's, there's definitely a solid 3 inches overhang when I get across the bottom. Actually, I could use the really big one. It's probably sharp. As this one here is it's on a 3/4 inch bar. Thing weighs about 10 pounds as far as the tool itself. I don't use it very much, but I got a ridge out here. Got to get rid of that. As far as the curve goes, it's not too bad. It's a little flat. As things would be. If that looks, it feels like it felt like when it was cutting, we're there. But this one here that I got here, that's generally to do big bowls, not little things like this. Like I say, I was just being sort of lazy, not taking the time to walk over and sharpen the normal bowl gouge. We don't need, you don't need you don't really need the one that I just used. I mean, they're nice in some aspects, but it's just another added expense that you wouldn't have to do. That's a pretty piece of cedar, though. That gave us something to do while our shellac dried. And since we're using the same chuck, so all this one needs is sanded. And we might finish this with the other super glue because it's going to, we might just put a little bit on there. Use a little bit thicker super glue on there because that crack is there. Has the same principles. It's a slow setting super glue. So I'll do it on the inside of this piece because we haven't sanded that yet. Outside of this has already been sanded. Just put a nice liberal coat on there. It's going to soak into no man's land. Probably started to, as it did, started to come out the other side. Could probably even put a little over there. You just have to sand. Just have to sand that little area a little bit. Put the lid back on before I spray in by backing the aerator around. Otherwise, you'll ruin a thing of super glue in a hurry. So that should have set it. So that's it. I just have to remember to use that super glue to finish it. If I use the other one, it will not. It's not a two-coat kind of a super glue. The other one, the one I normally use for finishing, is a one single coat. Put the second coat over top of it. It just beads up like a well-waxed car. So it would cause me a whole lot of aggravation. You get a clean pair of gloves. And figure out which one we're going to use. There are three choices. My wife doesn't like the one choice that I made. Teal, purple, blue, violet. I think we'll use the blue violet. Like I say, this is always the problem when you go to a symposium and go down to vendor alley. And I was hoping somebody would be there with this stuff. I wanted to try it. I'll try these colors. These are, what do they call them? They don't really call them. These are sort of a color shifting. That's what they're supposed to do. Oh, that's a funky looking color. Use glove fingers. Go in here and see what it does in there. It won't do much in there. Could have done it where it was black. That would have been better. Yeah, looks like it's color shifting. It's kind of surprising the color that come out of the tube. What we're going to do is we'll rub it into the grain. Why would is there supposed to be a candlestick? They're already done. They're done, ready to go. This we got to play with our new color shifting cream, man. We're gonna, oh, yeah, I didn't change that yet. I'll get there. If I don't schedule in my head, well, I could have changed the one on Twitch. The one on YouTube, unless I schedule it, then I can't change the title, unfortunately. Or at least I'm not smart enough to know how to do it. Put it that way. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff, which is good because it's kind of pricey. This is blue violet chameleon. It does have a purple cast to it, certain ways. There again, that's what they're supposed to do is the multitude of colors. So we'll see. We'll give it a minute or two to set up. Although it feels like it's really starting to set up. And we'll wipe off the excess with a paper towel. Light doesn't necessarily do it a whole lot of justice. Definitely changes. The camera is definitely not going to really pick it up for sure. But as I spin it around and look at it, depending on what angle you look at it, it's definitely different colors. We'll give that a moment or two to set up. You know, when I watched some people use this stuff in a demonstration at a symposium or something like that, they don't give it hardly any time to set up. In my case, I'm going to give it that little bit of time to set up. Also going to get some shellac. And I'll do the same thing as I did with the black. I will spray it on with the airbrush, where I get a nice light, even coat. Probably if I was to take and try and put it on by hand, you probably would smear them around. Maybe if you were really patient and left it sit for an hour or two, maybe you wouldn't, but I've never known to have great patience. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you all about it. Need a towel. Best collection. The wonders of the airbrush is spraying a really nice light coat on there. Even though it looks like I hung out for quite a while in there, it's really a light coat. Maybe even a little too light. Shellac and super glue are not friends. So I'm able to spray this upper rim, even though I'm spraying down over that. That will buff right off when I get around to buffing that. It really doesn't stick to it. It'll dry on the surface, but it won't stick to it. That's good. Go the right way. You can actually see the dark ring of black on there. So like I said, it come right off. If we hold it up in the light, as we move it around, it goes from purple to blue. I think it's kind of an interesting look. Once again, this is going to need to dry a little while. We're back to cleaning our airbrush again. Well, that's what it was. What it's called, blue violet. So maybe I should have tried the what's the other one? Teal blue, which teal would be a green. I don't know. On the next one, I have some tool handles to make, so there'll be some weird colors. Like before, a little denatured alcohol in there. Spray it in my little container. After I put the lid back on, as I close the nozzle down, and we're good. Probably not necessarily the way you should do that as far as housekeeping goes, but somewhere along the line, somebody saw them do it that way, and like it looked like a really nice, simple way to do it. So that's what we did. Good thing Harbor Freight sells them gloves dirt cheap. Start playing around with any of this kind of stuff, and you go through a pile of them in a hurry. So now we can go back to our cedar bowl since we're waiting on things to dry. I won't do much more to that platter tonight. The thing I would like to do with it is to put some lacquer on it. And once again, the lacquer that I use is a water-based lacquer. So once again, I'm right back to my to my airbrush, my favorite little airbrush that we will spray that with the using the airbrush as well. Because all I will do is the rim. The rest I will do with the 3408. Once we finish out the bowl part. Really thinking I would like to try and teach that in a class, but I'm not sure how well that would work. It would have to be a longer class than I normally do, put it that way. How? Missing a grit or two of sandpaper there. Yeah, guy that I get my sandpaper from, he gave me a trial pack of a different one. Oh shoot, they're 2 inch, I think. Oh no, they're 2 and 3/8. Okay, don't need that. Ooh, don't need that one either. That's probably 100. He seems to think that people should start with a 80 or 100. And my philosophy is if I need to go that low with sandpaper, then I should work on something other than sanding, mainly cutting wise. I I'll go along the rim without it spinning first, and then we'll give it a spin. And then quite that fast. And we'll spin it a little faster than I do a lot of times, just so that I can get out here on the rim easier. Just less pressure when I get out there, and go right off the rim, back across the center, off the other rim. The sandpaper seems to cut nicely. I always use my paintbrush to clean off the rigger. Not worried about that discoloration right there. I'm going to put super glue over top of it, so that's sort of the color that it should turn to. Because that right there is end grain, so it really went in there deep. So you'll never sand that out anyhow. So that was 150, 180. $240. When I go from right side to left side like that, that's sort of like sanding in forward on one side and reverse on the other. 120. Sure, the other one's in the dirt. This should be 400. 600. Last but not least, 800. And that's it. Oh, shoot. Forgot this little bit of hair on the back. But it left a little bit of a ridge or a little, I don't know what you call it, a little bump sticking up where there was excess glue. So that's that. That seems to be pretty good stuff as far as that sandpaper goes. In order to remove the last bit of the bark, a wire brush usually takes care of it really quick and easy. Usually. This is some uncooperative stuff here. Some of it's sticking better than others, of course. Try and get it down to pretty much bare wood. Not really worried about scratching it with the wire brush. It may take in something like this, kind of might look interesting to take the pyrography pen with a little round ball or something like that on there and just sort of burn the word dots in it all the way around. Or once it's finished, I won't put any finish up over that edge. Actually, I can do all that with that after the fact. Look for any really big, chunky areas. Like right there's some that's almost full thickness yet. Get under it with the corner of a knife, it pops it right off. Lastly, we'll take a little bit of 600 grit sandpaper, and I'll just go around the edge and just sort of soften that because it's sort of sharp right now. I'm not trying to round it, really not trying to round it over. I'm just trying to make sure that it's not finger slicing kind of sharp. You also could even sand some of this stuff a little bit if you wanted to. Myself, I like to try and leave it a little bit organic, so to speak. Sort of trying to teach myself how to carve with a knife, and it sort of comes in the same scenario in a way. Oh, I'll just stiffen everything up around it so I don't keep playing around with it. I'll end up scratching things I don't want scratched. So we'll finish it. Don't wear that glove. I want to use the glove. I didn't throw that glove away that had that grain filler on it. Don't want to pick that up and use that one. This time we'll use some 3460 because that's what I filled the crack with. It will do the same thing as the 3408. I think it does a little bit nicer job in some aspects. It's a little bit slower setting. It says more like about a 50-second time delay in it, but it does not go in the grain as far because it is just that little bit thicker. But it seems to give a nice shine, probably because there's more of it sitting on more towards the surface than it would be down in like the others is. I definitely sell more of the 3408 than I do the 3460. If you wanted this, something like this, if you wanted to have that super, super high gloss shine, and you could put multiple coats on. When you do that, then you're going to have to sand those coats back, wet sand it back, and then polish it from there, like you would a pen, something like that. A lot more work to do in a bowl. You can see right there. I probably should have sanded that a little bit harder. That right there where that's at, it's can't soak in because it's already soaked in. And the cedar's like a sponge. It's just drinking it in. And since we use that one, if we come back tomorrow or something and it doesn't look as the way we want it to, nothing says we can't go over it again. Knowing full well that if I go over it again, probably going to have to do some sanding. This might have some different characteristics in it. That's some dark, almost like it's spalted a little bit or something. Dark streaks rather than snow white on the outside rim right there. Kind of an interesting look. Now just for tonight, we'll just do the inside. Definitely let it sit, put it back in between, basically between centers onto a jam chuck. or even once this is cured, I could actually put it on a vacuum chuck, finish the tenant off on the bottom, and then finish the whole back at one time as well. Just make sure that I dry everything off the surface. I don't want to leave any sitting on the surface behind. So that's what our cedar bowl is going to look like. Probably the first piece of this that I've actually finished. I have another one over there ready to be finished, but different for sure. Yeah, I don't even need to put any activator on it because I'm not going to do anything else with it tonight. It'll dry naturally on its own. It just takes us a little bit longer. It gave it that's a pretty good look. Different. A little bit of touch up where I put the original bit on, but a little bit 800 grit sandpaper once everything's cured. That'll go away. It's actually rough to the touch, even though I sanded that smooth. It's just the fact that it can't soak in, so it still sits on the surface. And once it goes over top of itself, it sets up quicker. So we'll go back to our little platter. Switch over to lacquer, and we'll spray a coat or two of lacquer on it. You don't really necessarily need to get super carried away, I don't think. Mm, I just saw them little cups somewhere. Didn't want to put it back in the bottle. Because there again, this is a water-based product, so denatured alcohol will cut water-based stuff as well, as well as water would. The water-based lacquer almost looks like a water-based polyurethane type stuff. It's just a lacquer product. This is a gloss. So we will get a nice shine to it. Couple, 3 coats probably. Maybe less than that actually, because it's already been sealed with shellac. And a couple of coats of shellac on there will make it shinier quicker.
Put enough on so that it's going to look wet. If I don't get enough on, it will not. If it can't flow or yeah, if it can't sort of flow together, then it won't. If that makes sense. Should be good for that. And I think that's going to be the extent of what we do for tonight. Let that sit. Go have a couple beverages and watch a little TV and try and come back down a little later before I go to bed, and I'll spray that another time. And then that should be the situation on that. And who knows? Maybe we'll see how things go tomorrow. Maybe we'll be back tomorrow night and finish it up if we get all of our coats of lacquer on, which I should be able to. Any questions, comments? Otherwise, we're going to call it a day. And we'll be back. We should be back to sort of normal on Saturday nights. Well, next weekend is a class weekend, so maybe I'll try and do it. I have a class on Friday too. So I probably won't be here next week, but I most likely will be here some other evening this week because we're off this week on vacation. So till next time, you all have a good week and see you another day in YouTube.